Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, I want to introduce myself to you. My name is Evelyne Safina. I'm from Master of Accounting, Faculty of Economic and Business at State University of Jakarta. I will be present my research proposal with the title is The Way of Explaining Profitability, Capital Structure, and Corporate Income Tax Payable with Operating Costs as a moderating variable. Before starting these presentations, I want to thanks with Dr. Indra Pahala, MSc, at the first thesis advisor, and then Dr. Eti Gurendrawati, MSc Alpha, at the second thesis advisor who helped me finishing my research proposal. Okay, this is my background on my research. Financial report is an important role as a source of information for stakeholders in assessing the performance of a company's management. Not only focusing on the financial aspect, this report also provides an overview of the financial positions, company performance, its obligations and change, and financial conditions from the previous period to the present. One important information that can be obtained from financial reports is data on the financial positions for its profit. Companies with high profits generate have advantage have an advantage in expanding their business scope, especially in terms of sales. Based on the law of general provisions and tax procedures, tax is contributions that must be paid by taxpayers to the state based on the provisions of the law. It is mandatory and doesn't provide direct compensations to the parishes, such as much as possible to support the needs of the state for the welfare of the community. In accordance with the provisions of Article 6, Paragraph 1 of Law Number 36 of 2008, corporate income tax is one form of tax revenue in Indonesia. Corporate income tax is closely related to operational costs incurred in running a business. Become these costs functions as deductions for operational income, therefore the higher the operational cost incurred by the company, the smaller the profit obtained. So that the amount of corporate income tax that must be paid to the state treasury and also our. And then this is the table. So based on the data list in the table, it's known that the large role of tax and such financings, this should be a major concern for the government to make more efforts to achieve the revenue targets and its pledge. In the accordance with the provisions of the Audit Board of Indonesia, the corporate income tax rate in Indonesia has discouraged as part of a strategy to optimize tax revenue. Next, based on the informations in the table, there's a decrease in corporate income tax rate from 25% in 2010 to 22% in the 2020 until 2024 period. In Indonesia, even though the government has lowered the corporate income tax rate, companies still commit to tax valuations that are often found. Next, one of the phenomena are occurred was one released by the Directorate General of Tax, involving PT Coca-Cola Indonesia. DGT found a significant spike in the recording costs in the early 2000s. The increase in expense caused the disperse in taxable income, which ultimately had an impact on the amount of tax payable becoming smaller. The cost increases were related to Coca-Cola's advertising expense during the period 2002 until 2006, with a total of uh, 500 and 560 and 6 billion, because taxable income decreased. The Coca-Cola Indonesia should have paid of 648 billion, based on the company's calculations. Only 40 and 90 to 6 90 to 94 billion was deposited into the state's treasury. There was a difference of 46 to 24 billion. There was not paid. The payment was related to the amount of corporate income tax payable, where the recording of the spike in cost by PT Coca-Cola caused the amount of taxable to be lowered. This was due to the increase in costs recorded, this reducing taxable profit and having an impact on the decrease in taxable. Corporate income tax continue to the decline, and the current corporate income tax rate is lowest tax rate ever. There are several factors that can affect corporate income tax that will explain in this research, including the explaining profitability, capital structure, and operating costs. However, in practice, various frauds are still found by companies in an effort to reduce the tax burden. That explaining it is the strategy to fulfill tax obligations by organizing, coordinating, and supervising tax page so that the tax burdens borne by company can be minimized without violating applicable laws. Profitability standard for measuring the goods or bad conditions of the company that can be assessed from financial performance by analyzing financial ratio, capital structures, and comparisons between long-term return funds from loans and funds from equity. Operating costs are all expense encouraged by company to financial its operational activity in order to achieve interdependence goals. Next, the problem formulations. The first, does tax planning have an impact on corporate income tax payable by manufacturing companies on the IDX? And then the second, does profitability have an influence of corporate income tax payable in manufacturing companies on IDX? And then the third, company does capital structure have an influence on corporate income tax payable in manufacturing company based on IDX? And then the fourth, does company does operating costs moderate the effect of tax planning on corporate income tax payable in manufacturing companies based on the IDX? The fifth, does operating costs moderate the effect of profitability on corporate income tax payable in manufacturing companies list on IDX? And then the sixth, does capital structure moderate the effect of tax planning on corporate income tax payable in manufacturing company IDX? Next, the research of purpose. The first, to find out whether tax planning has an influence on corporate income tax payable by manufacturing companies listed on the IDX. The second, to find out whether profitability have has an influence on corporate income tax payable in manufacturing company list on the IDX. And then the next to find out whether capital structure has an influence on corporate income tax payable in manufacturing company list on the IDX. The fourth to find out the whether operational costs moderate the effect of tax planning on corporate income tax payable in manufacturing companies list on the IDX. The fifth to find out whether operating costs moderate the effect of profitability on corporate income tax payable in manufacturing companies listed on IDX. And then the sixth to find out whether capital structure moderate the effect of the tax planning on corporate income tax payable in manufacturing company lists on the IDX. Next, the theoretical review. And then the first is agency theory. Johnson and McLean explained that Eigen's relationship is one or more parties as principal with another parties as agents, enforcing mandate and making decisions on behalf of the principal. The principal employs two agents to perform tasks for the benefits of the principal, involving the delegation of decisions might gain authority from the principal to the agent. And then there is a company's capital consists of shares whose holders as principal and the CEO as an agent. And in the study, it can be explained that there is a relationship of interest in the company's profit between the taxpayer, or namely the company's management, who acts as an agent, and the tax collector or tax collector who acts as and the principal. Next, signal theory. The theory suggests how companies should provide signals to users the financial statement. Signal theory emphasizes the importance of information provided by company in order to provide positive signals that influence investment decisions for external parties and provide information to users of financial statements regarding company's profitability, whether it's in the good or bad conditions. Next, corporate income tax payable. Corporate income tax payable is stored in Article 2, Paragraph 1 of the law requires every entity to pay tax on all income earned but from within and outside the country. Income tax Article 25 presents tax installments that must be paid by taxpayer himself every month during the current tax years. Meanwhile, Income tax Article 29 is the difference between the total tax payable in one tax year and the amount at tax credit and installments that have been paid during the tax period. Next, tax planning. Tax planning is a strategy taken by companies management to reduce the tax burden so that it's not too high. This strategy is carried out legally and effectively to reduce tax company without violating tax provisions. Next, profitability. Profitability is a measure that shows the extent to which a company is able to earn profits from sales level, usable assets, and share capital owned. And capital structure. Capital structure is the part of the financial structure that focus on long-term or permanent financings. Generally, capital structure includes comparison between on capital or equity and foreign capital or debt. Therefore, choosing the optimal capital structure is very important for company and saving their long-term goals, such as sustainable growth, business continuity, and increasing value for shareholders. Next, the operating costs. Operating cost is the expense that are directly related to the company's operational activities. Operational costs refer to all expense incurred by the company's carrying out daily business activity to produce goods or service. These costs play an important role in determining the profits earned by the company. Next, this is the relevant research, my research. And then next, the hypothesis. The first exponent has an positive effect on corporate income tax, and then profitability has an positive effect on corporate income tax. Capital structure has a positive effect on corporate income tax, and then operational costs can moderate the effect of tax planning on corporate income tax. And then the fifth, operating cost can moderate the effect of profitability on corporate income tax. And then the last, operating costs are able to moderate the influence of capital structure on corporate income tax. Next, this is the conceptual framework. Next, the research of methods. The first is populations. The population is public companies or TBK listed on the Indonesian Stock Exchange or IDX in the manufacturing sector for the period 2020 until 2023. And then the sampling method that will be applied in this study is the purposive sampling method with the following considerations and sampling criteria. The first, publicity company or TBK list on the Indonesian Stock Exchange or IDX in the manufacturing sector and has issued financial report for the period 2020 until 2023. And then the second, manufacturing sector company that's present financial reports in rupiah currency. And then the third is the financial report has complete data according to the operational variables required in this research. And then the last, the data collections or technique. The data source that will be used and the study comes from secondary data, namely annual financial report for the period 2020 until 2023. The data will be collected from the Indonesian Stock Exchange or IDX. Next, the operationalizations of research variable. The variable Y is corporate income tax. The conceptual definitions is corporate income tax is a tax obligation that must be paid by taxpayers on income earned, whether from domestic or foreign source, regardless on the non or from the income tax. And then the operational definitions, the corporate income tax is financial fiscal profit times corporate income tax payable. The second, the variable X is tax planning. Tax planning is a strategic process for managing the persons or business entities tax obligations in the legitimate manner to minimize the amount of tax payable while still complying with applicable tax regulations. Then tax expense per profit before tax. And then the next, profitability. Profitability is the ability of a company or business to generate profits from its operational activity in accordance with which is the replicate and profits obtained by the company, but from sales and investments. And then the operational definitions is profit after tax per a total asset times 100%. Next, capital structure. Capital structure is the compositions of debt and equity used by company to finance its operational and investment activities. And then there is total debt per total equity times 100%. Then the variable Z is operating costs. Operating costs are the total costs related to the company's operational activity, which includes sales costs as well as general and administrative costs. Then the operating cost is sales costs plus generally and administrative costs. And then the last is data analysis techniques. The data analysis techniques in the research is descriptive statistical analysis, and the next coefficients of determinations test, correlations test, simulation tests, classic- classical assumption tests is our normality test, multi-cumulative test, heterospecificity test, autocorrelation test, and then the hypothesis test. Okay, that's all my presentation. Thank you for your attention and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.